Welcome to Soccer in 60, presented by the Empire Strykers. Get ready for your weekly look at all the pro soccer teams in Greater Los Angeles. We've got all the news and analysis you need, from LAFC and the LA Galaxy to the Empire Strikers, Angel City FC, and Orange County Soccer Club. Now, buckle up and enjoy Soccer in 60. It's been a week since Thanksgiving, and hopefully your leftovers are consumed and those desires for turkey, pumpkin pie, and all the other fixings have been satisfied, at least for the year. Now, while our plates and fridges might finally be empty, hopefully your appetites are still there, as we've got a full serving of footy for you on another edition of Soccer in 60. The seasons may be over for LAFC, Angel City Football Club, Orange County Soccer Club, but the LA Galaxy are the Western Conference champs and are preparing for their first MLS Cup title in a decade against another since original 96 club, and that in the New York Red Bulls. We're going to recap the win versus the Sounders and give you an MLS Cup preview. You're going to be witnessing history as we bring back our first repeat guest, and that of Scott French, legendary soccer writer and Galaxy expert, to rap about that with us, the Galaxy, their run, and other topics. Geez, I'm that excited, and I guess I'm clearly full from Thanksgiving. And, of course, the Empire Strikers are getting ready for their season opener against the back-to-back MESL champions, Chihuahua Savage. Like I said, full plate, the stuffings, the leftovers, so much to talk about, so much to listen to. So loosen up those belts as we get set to address your hunger pangs for soccer on Soccer in 60. And in case you forgot, my name is Christian Filliman, but they call me Philly. Joining me from Orange County, the poet of Placentia. He loves his drinks and all glassware that's tiki. I give you Tim Kolutz.
Good afternoon, Philly. Great to have you here. I've got my Tyrannosaurus Rex tiki mug with me today, ready to talk footy in SoCal, and I'm happy that I get to do it with you, buddy.
Absolutely. I must have absorbed some of that tiki drink through osmosis with my intro stutter, but that it's neither here nor there. The Galaxy are in the MLS Cup. You should be thrilled, Tim. Is this something that excites you? I imagine you had a party at your house over the weekend.
We certainly did. We were watching the game from stem to stern, and we'll get into one of our guests last week, Daniel Gonzalez, and about he was Nostradamus on this game. But let's talk a little bit about LAFC before we get into that, and about the big giant party that we had here at the house watching the Galaxy Seattle game.
All right, bear with me 1 second. I'm putting on my glasses, Tim. For those that are watching this, you know what I'm talking about. For those listening, I have red tinted glasses on. Why? Because I'm still seeing red, Tim. I'm seeing it figuratively and literally. I'm still bummed that LAFC is not in the final. But that being said, we had a little bit of news. Denny Bouanga selected to the 2024 MLS Best 11 to go along with Riqui Puig, by the way. We're going to have a lot to talk about with Riqui Puig. But for those who are unaware, this award recognizes the league's top players at each position as determined by the media, MLS players, and, of course, technical staffs. For Denny Bouanga, this is his second time on this list. It's pretty awesome. He was honored back in 2023. He won the MLS Golden Boot last season as the top scorer. And this year, this is fun, the fourth player in league history to record back-to-back 20-goal seasons, and is one of only 5 players in the history of Major League Soccer to record multiple 20-plus goal seasons. Bouanga had a great year, as we all know, 28 goals, 16 assists in 48 games across all competitions. 20 goals, 11 assists in just MLS, while leading the league in shots, shots on goal, and expected goals. 66 goals, Tim, since 2023 in 96 total games. Denny Bouanga, no doubt, an elite talent in this league.
The level that he is at in this league over the past 2-3 years is incredible. Like you said, 66 of them in 96 games. This is incredible to see this type of talent at this level. And as we all know, MLS has gotten far, far better over the last 5-10 years than it was, like you said, in the early days of MLS. This is now a destination. And for somebody like Bouanga to come over here and do what he's doing, in the league is very, very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Just an elite talent, and well, he's going to be sticking on LAFC's roster, and that's a good thing because the black and gold do need him. Now, the club announced that they have gone through some changes. 19 players are still on contract. LAFC has exercised 5 player options and declined 6 of them for next year. And so they've exercised options on Adrian Waboo, Sergi Palencia, Eddie Segura, Hugo Lloris, David Ochoa. Surprisingly, they declined options on Carlos Vela, Kai Kamara, Luis Muller, Tommy Musto, Marlon, Diego Rosales. But from what I gather, the club is going to be talking about Vela for the future. Now, Aaron Long, Jesus Murillo, Ilie Sanchez, Eric Dueñas, these are all players that have been around for a while. They're out of contract. Now, that gives them the eligibility for free agency, so it'd be very interesting to know where the club goes with that. I know they're talking about retaining Long, Murillo, Marlon, and Dueñas, but Ilie Sanchez, are they done with him? The captain, the man who scored the clinching goal against the Philadelphia Union in the penalty kicks back in 2022? I'm kind of shocked.
I'm shocked about that one too, and I was going to ask you about Aaron Long. We've had Aaron on the show a few weeks ago. I think they have to bring back Aaron Long, but I'm very surprised about Ilie Sanchez as well, that they're not going to bring him back. That was a shocker to me.
Well, it's not that they're not bringing him back. We just don't know if that's the case. I mean, Ilie was pretty much left for dead during his time at Sporting Kansas City. He had a resurrection within his career coming to LAFC, and we still got able to get a couple good years out of him, but we'll see. I know another big piece that LAFC does want to bring back is Lewis O'Brien. He came on loan from English Premier side Nottingham Forest, but the loan expires at the end of the year. So Lewis O'Brien was a big part of LAFC. So hopefully they hang on to him. The offseason will begin on Monday, December the 9th. So not too long from now. So we'll see exactly what takes place. The expansion draft is going to be the first thing taking place with San Diego FC. We'll be seeing them, see what kind of a rivalry that's going to be for all these other clubs here in Los Angeles and up north, obviously, in San Jose. You got free agency and end-of-year waivers on December 12th. The re-entry process, stage 1 on December 13th. And we have plenty of that stuff to talk about.
Yeah, and I was wondering, do you really think that Edward Atuesta is really gone? I know that his loan with Brazilian side Sociedade Esportiva Palermas is up at the end of the year. Will he go back to Brazil, or is there a chance that they keep him?
Nah, they already made the part of our history post, which has become infamous right now for players leaving. So, yeah, they did not retain him. So Edward Atuesta is gone.
Okay. Well, with that, let's move on to our interview segment of the program. We have, as Philly mentioned at the top of the program, Scott French coming on today. Hey, Philly, why don't you give our good friend Scott a very warm welcome today?
A very warm welcome is coming up. You said it. Our guest today is a writer for Soccer America and joins us for the second time. With MLS Cup around the corner, we really wanted to have him on because, well, he's covered the Galaxy since its inception. In fact, he's been writing about pro soccer since 1979 and has covered 5 World Cups between the men and the women, 3 Olympics, a men's European Championship, 15 MLS Cups, and a partridge in a pear tree. He's a former senior editor at Soccer America and managing editor at Major League Soccer Magazine. It's such a pleasure to welcome back to the show, Mr. Scott French. Scott, thank you so much for coming back on.
Oh, no problem. Always like to be with you guys.
With you now being a repeat guest, that solidifies you on the Mount Rushmore of Soccer in 60. How does that feel?
I feel really honored. Thanks, guys.
Of course. Now, we're going to talk at length about the Galaxy, but I'd like to start off by briefly looking at LAFC. They won the U.S. Open Cup. They snatched first place in the West away from the Galaxy, and some could argue that that was the worst thing that happened. Nonetheless, there continues to be persistent chatter about Steve Cherundolo, with some of the fans wondering out loud if he was and still is the right man for the job. When we had you on last time, you basically dismissed that. Now, after that brutal loss to Seattle in the conference semifinals, do you still feel the same way?
Oh, yeah, of course. I think Steve's a excellent coach. LAFC's problems, the big question comes down to who is deciding that Giroud should be a starter? I think that is the biggest question. And I understand the desire to start Giroud and to keep him in that lineup. But we saw he did not fit. They have to rearrange the way they play around Giroud during this offseason. And if Griezmann comes as well, then that makes it easier. You put those two up front and you build around it. But that, you look at that, that for me is the foundation of the problem, because it changes the space up front. It changes the movements of everybody. And all of a sudden, instead of it just flowing together the way that it does when it's really on, it got a little bit clunky. Defenses found that they could double up on Denis. The move to 3 in the back and just the 2 8s, I thought that was it worked against some opponents, but I thought that you lost something without Ilie out there. You lost an organizer and someone who could modulate the game and who could be there to constantly keep the ball moving, to thread among different players. And they didn't have that. And I think it's all a little bit related, and it really comes down to Giroud didn't fit.
Yeah, square hole in a round peg, so to speak. I know we've been in those press conferences a lot of the season together, you asking Steve the tough questions. Bringing up Ilie Sanchez, along with players of the likes of Edward Atuesta, who already got that part of our history LAFC post. He's going back to Palmeiras. LAFC exercised 5 player options, declined 6 options for next season. 19 players currently remain. Who do you anticipate is going to be another one of those part of our history post? Do you think Ilie comes back? Would he be your pick? Like, who do you think LAFC does not bring back that they've had for a little while?
Well, just the way that they worded it, I fear that it is Ilie who I'm really going to miss, because as anybody who deals with Ilie will tell you, he's the finest human being I've ever met. And he's a fine soccer player. I think a combination of age, money, and what they've got to do. They have to change how they play. They won't come right out and say that, but they're not stupid. They know that, and I think that this is part of it. You've got to make some tough decisions on players who demand a certain amount of money and players who are of a certain age. But I hope he gets picked up, somewhere good, and he's able to continue on, because who doesn't love Ilie?
Hey Scott, I love the insight. It's fantastic, and we were just talking about Ilie as well. As we transition on over to the Galaxy, let's immediately address the big giant elephant sticking its big smelly snout in our face, which is Riqui Puig. And the fact that he's going to miss the most important game of the season with this injury. How much does that hurt the Galaxy, really, truly, in your opinion?
It does hurt them. I also think they can adjust and make up for it. But who it really hurts, I think, are the people who are going to be watching the game. We kind of had this anticipation of, hey, we were going to get to see, one, the way New York defends, and the Galaxy with this attack, and with Riqui and what he can do, and he's the most electric player in the league, and let's see what he can summon, and we lose that. And the Galaxy still have a great attack, still are going to be able to do a lot of things, but it's not the same, because you don't have anyone else who can just kind of make a run through 6 defenders and then 2 little passes and boom, it's a goal. It's I'm a big Peck fan, and I think that Peck is as good with the ball as Riqui. I think he, like Riqui, is someone who gets faster when he has the ball at his feet. I think that's a very special weapon in this game, and I think he's going to be really important. And I think the Galaxy probably are still the favorite, especially playing at home. But they've lost a big element of who they are, and given that they've been playing their best soccer of the year over the last month, given that they finally, all the little issues that had prevented them from being good repeatedly, they'd have good segments and then they're okay, great segment, okay. all of that kind of came together as they solidified the defense and figured out things in midfield, and boom, all of a sudden they're playing as beautiful a soccer as we've seen in this league, and at least when they're on the attack. And
Right.
we're not going to have that, and that's sad.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. So we've had Kobe Jones on the show. Then last week we had former Galaxy goalkeeper coach Daniel Gonzalez on the show. They both said that a major part, and you just mentioned it a second ago, that a major part of the Galaxy's growth this year has been the money spent on standout attackers. Plain and simple. Would you agree with that, or are you seeing something else from the team that perhaps other people are overlooking?
Well, no, absolutely, because the biggest issue for the Galaxy has been that they didn't have the width to deal with what Riqui could do. It's as if he was a painter and they only gave him black, white, and gray. And Peck and Paintsill just provided the ability to open up space and to exploit space, and that's really what Ricky's about, is finding space and taking advantage of it. And all of a sudden, they've got all the different colors in their palette. And as Peck has figured out what his role is, because at Vasco da Gama, he ran up and down the wing. That was his job. And he's been asked to become a forward as well as a winger. And as soon as he embraced that and could feel it, we saw him go off. That he didn't make the best 11, I think is insane. I mean, this guy was just amazing from the 8th game of the season, somewhere around there, until the end. I mean, he had a goal assist or a goal contribution that didn't count because there was one too many passes or a defender touched it or whatever it was. All but a very small handful of games. I mean, the guy's incredible. Yeah, that really helped. The other one was, they brought in before Peck and Paintsill arrived, they brought in Mickey Yamane, the right back. And he wasn't one of the big money and he wasn't the attacker guys, but he has a great attacking sense. He's really good at getting inside and he makes things happen. And I think that's another big play for them in terms of making that attack go.
So those big plays that Will Kuntz has put together in the past season has now propelled the Galaxy to the MLS Cup. First time since 2014, and they square off against a 96 club in that of the New York Red Bulls, formerly known as the Metro Stars. This surprised a lot of people. I mean, the Red Bulls are, I think, the lowest seed in MLS history to make it to the Cup. Now, what kind of game are you expecting on Saturday? Like, what do you expect from the Red Bulls? What does the Galaxy need to do in order to emerge victorious? With all things considered, Puig being out and possibly Royce, too, with that groin.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing is just the way that Red Bull plays. I mean, they're a Red Bull team. They play the Red Bull style. They press. They press high. If they can turn you over at the edge of your defensive third, that's what they want. They don't give you a lot of space. But in doing so, they give you more space than, say, Seattle last week did. Because Seattle just sat in those 2 blocks of 4 and said, try to find space to do something against us. And they couldn't. It took a turnover with players pushed up for them to find a goal, which they did very quickly. There is going to be space that they can find, and it's a matter of how precise are they in dealing with that space. I think if they can do that, they're going to be in good shape. If they don't, then it really comes down to how strong they are in defense, and not just the back line, but all over the field. You can't allow New York to be turning you over deep and having an easy path to the goal. So, I think it's a really interesting tactical battle. And I think it's really interesting how the Galaxy are gonna have to deal with it. But this is a team that's been dealing with the challenges. And one of the things, I'm in the middle of writing a Greg Vanney story right now. In fact, when we get done, I go back to that. I'd like to have it done in the next hour. And one of the things that he's looking to do is just find the means to attack. And he loves having to go up against these different defenses, the challenges, the tactical challenges. This is what he lives for. I mean, this guy is detail and tactics, and he'll sit there and you can talk tactics with him for hours. That's what he is about. He may be the most inside the game coach I've ever covered.
He's also got that chip on his shoulder, not being able to win an MLS Cup with the Galaxy as a player, wanting to do it as a coach. So he's also got that riding with him. But yeah, very curious about your story. I don't want to keep you too long from having to write it. So we got just a couple more questions. Of course, you know we cover the Empire Strykers. There we go. If you're watching, I got my sweater on. We're hearing from a certain little German birdie that you're doing a story for Soccer America that has to deal with the Strykers and the MESL. I'm even hearing that you might have a couple of Strikers games and the recent indoor clash between the U.S. and Mexico back in September. Now, I'm curious, like, what got you interested in indoor soccer? Like, what have you been interested about specifically with the sport?
Well, I mean, I've covered indoor soccer before. I covered the lasers every once in a while back in the 1980s. I played in oh God, what year would this have been? Probably around 82 or 83. I played in a media celebrity game. I scored a goal on Gail Goodrich.
Wow.
Nice.
Gail Goodrich, all right.
I was like 20 years old, yeah. I covered the Anaheim Splash in the old CISL. That's where I met Dan Cordemonch from MLS. I mean, it's always been there. It's not, I'm more of an outdoor guy like most soccer people, but yeah, I've always watched indoor soccer. But I think that it's an interesting story. It's basically on the Strykers and MASL and MASL's desire to become something that indoor soccer hasn't been for a while. And it's a look at the whole indoor soccer landscape as well. But it's something that I'm really at the beginning. The Galaxy and how far they've gone just keeps delaying me from doing stuff that I need to do. I've done probably 6 or 7 interviews so far that are really preliminary. I got a lot more stuff to do. I'd like to have it ready to go in mid-January. I think it could be even a week or two after that, but I definitely want to get it in while this season is going.
Hey, Scott, anytime you can get in a sizzle reference with the Anaheim Splash and a 1984 reference to the LA Lasers, man, I'm on board with you because I was a fan of both. Hey, Scott, you know what? This has been fantastic. We really appreciate you coming on again. We're looking forward to seeing that article in mid-January, and we'd love to have you on right after it comes out.
Oh, definitely. All right, take care, guys.
All right, see you soon, Scott.
Bye.
See ya. How fun was that, Philly?
It's always fun having good conversations. And I see Scott a lot at BMO Stadium in the press conference. We're always rapping about stuff. In fact, you just reminded me, I got to give him back his Grateful Dead CD. I still have that.
Oh, that's great. Hey, let's get in. We've got a couple of minutes. Let's finish up with the LA Galaxy and do a little preview of them. We watching that game. It was fun. And like you said, we had a little bit of a party over here. We might have had a cold beverage or whatnot. But Daniel Gonzalez was dead on last week in our interview about what was going to happen in that game, how it was going to go, that there'd be less than 2 goals, 2 goals or less in that game. And Philly, I know that you caught up on the game. You probably watched some of it, even though it wasn't your first choice on Saturday night. But what did you see from the Galaxy grinding out a 1-0 win after outscoring their first couple of opponents by 15 goals?
I mean, you said it. They were grinding things out. Like Seattle came in tough, as you would have expected. What Seattle had that they didn't have against LAFC was Nuhu. Nuhu is a fantastic player. Without a doubt, one of the big pieces for Seattle. And so he was able to shut down a lot of the Galaxy's attack. And, there was a lot of back and forth. And I really thought the game was going to go to extra time. I mean, there's just only a couple of moments that I could remember throughout the game where any team really had opportunities prior to the Galaxy scoring the goal. The one moment that sticks out to me, it would be within the first half, 35th minute. Jordan Morris found himself in a familiar position in the box as he had it up against Lewis O'Brien at BMO when they played LAFC, where he turned around and shot it upper right corner. So when Morris had his body up against the defender, it was Carlos Garces, the Colombian. I thought he was going to flip him around and do the same thing. Now he did, except he didn't fire the ball in the same direction that he did against LAFC. He kept it lower on the ground and without too much mustard. So I really thought that the Galaxy could have had their play there, but I guess even if they did, the flag went up. John McCarthy came up big, which at this point, he's got that experience. He's been the best Galaxy goalkeeper since well before even David Bingham. So, I mean, the Galaxy are really lucky to have had him. But, I mean, they grinded out a tough result. And, of course, I'll let you take the goal because, I mean, the Galaxy are your team. But Albert Rusnak, who's having a great season, I thought he was going to come up big, but he didn't really have much on his shots. No mustard, but the Galaxy didn't seem to care. They managed to still find a way.
Right. And what I noticed, and you'd mentioned it, there was not a whole lot going on. Each of the goalkeepers ended up with 4 saves on the game. Stephen Fry was Stephen Fry. And the only really good opportunity was the goal, and it came from a Seattle miscue. 35 yards out, 85th minute. Mark Delgado, who came on at halftime, gets some fresh legs out there for the G's, comes on, volleys the ball over to Pooch, who at this point has been playing with the torn ACL for 20 minutes, does a couple dribbles and puts a slick, just ridiculous pass past 2 different defenders. And Dejan Joveljic comes in and one-times this thing, puts it hard, lots of mustard, puts it far right, puts it down on the ground, right side. Fry still gets his hand on this thing, but nobody else does, and it's in the back of the net. And the Galaxy just grind out the last 11 minutes of that game like they did the first 85. I thought it was one of their best grinding defensive performances and finding a way to win. It was, I found it fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, just I thought Seattle. I think Seattle deserved to have gotten the dub with the way they played the Galaxy, but no question. Unfortunately, they go now without Riqui Puig and possibly without Marco Reus, who came off at halftime because of a groin strain. There's a possibility he might not play. Riqui Puig tore that ACL in the 63rd minute. I know a lot of people wanted to throw Christian Roldan under the bus because of the foul that he had on him, the tough one 2 minutes earlier. But from what we saw, Puig, I think he went down non-contact in that sense. But the fact that he still played and put out that gutsy performance was huge. So Galaxy move on to their first MLS Cup since 2014, which they hosted and of course won. And they're going to take on the team formerly known as the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars. They changed the name back in 2006 to the Energy Drink Company. Oddly enough, this team has never won an MLS Cup. They were like the Galaxy. They started out in 96, as I mentioned, but they've only had one appearance in the finals, which coincidentally was in Carson in 2008, where they lost by a score of 3-1. And they've enjoyed an amazing run, and they're now the lowest ever seed to reach the MLS Cup. We should start to preview and look at these guys a little bit. I'm shocked that they're in the MLS Cup, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, their road to the Cup has just been wild. And I think it's going to be a fun game. Galaxy are still going to be favored in this game. There's, the killer peas, even without Pooch in there, you still got a bunch of other ones. Scott had mentioned Mickey Yamane. I mean, the game is going to be great. The biggest thing that I see is from a goal defending perspective, they've both given up the exact same amount of goals, 53 for the Galaxy, 52 for the Red Bulls the entire season. What's different is the Red Bulls have only scored 59 goals. The Galaxy, on the other hand, 84. So you're going to have these guys coming in, and they're going to be firing the ball on net. They have a 15% rate of goal scoring when they shoot the ball, the Galaxy do. So if you get 5, 6, 8 shots on goal, 2 or 3 of them are going to go in, or just shots in general. it's not even shots on frame, and they're hitting 15% going the thing.
Yeah.
So to go in, take it away.
No, go for it. I mean, just keep going.
Yeah, the biggest thing as I see is they're going to come out, and I think if Peck keeps going down that right wing, they're going to have somebody come out, Delgado, somebody like that, into the midfield that's going to take Puig's place, per se. And I can't really replace the guy. But when you have somebody that level of talent that deep on your bench, I think there's going to be 2-3 guys that are going to step up for Puig and really put this game away for the Galaxy.
Well, yeah, Delgado's going to be one, but let's not forget about Diego Fagundes. I mean, that kid's been in the league forever. I mean, going back to his time with the New England Revolution, he was the youngest player. He's done so many things. Youngest player in MLS to reach 100 appearances for a club. Currently the youngest player in MLS history to score 50 goals. As a member of the Galaxy, in fact, became the 10th player in MLS history to record at least 70 goals and 70 assists in regular season play. So I think Diego Fagundes is going to be the one that the Greg Vanney is really going to look at. As far as my thoughts on the game, look, you still have so many good players with the Red Bull, and that Lewis Morgan, that kid can play. Obviously, Emil Forsberg is a baller. You got guys like John Tolkien, Sean Nealis. These guys can play, but Carlos Coronel, their keeper, what an outstanding run that he's had. I mean, they've only allowed 2 goals in one game. Other than that, he's kept clean sheets. He's had 19 saves across all competitions. So, in my opinion, if this game is to be won by the Red Bull, they have to do it within regulation. Because if they go to extra time and penalty shootout, I'm going to give the edge to the Galaxy because John McCarthy is a proven winner. He helped LAFC do it in 2022, shutting down the Philadelphia Union, which gave him the MLS Cup MVP title. I know that Coronel's talented shot stopper within his own right, but if the Red Bull are going to look to end it, they have to do it in regulation. If it goes to extra time and penalty kicks, I give the nod to the Galaxy and, of course, John McCarthy, friend of the podcast, might I add.
I'm with you there, Philly. It's if they don't win, and if they're not, I think it's the same type of thing that the Galaxy have done to teams all year, especially at home. That if you're not up by a couple of goals, you're not going to win, especially going into that second half. And if they're not up 2-1, 3-1, coming into 60th minute, I think the Galaxy are going to do it because the Red Bulls have to win in regulation time. If it goes to anything past regulation time and into extra time, Galaxy are going to win this game. I flat out. So on to that. What do we have going up? We've got the Strykers logo up. You've got Strykers on your shirt. I got Strykers behind me. Defend the Empire. What's going on with the MASL? Do we have some opening games coming up there, Billy?
Not coming up. They've already happened. I mean, the league started last week with the Kansas City Comets and the St. Louis Ambush. So the season is underway, but the season in the Inland Empire and for the Empire Strykers is just about to start, just like you mentioned. The Strykers, and by the way, the Strykers are really going to be the only thing we talk about here in a couple of weeks because once MLS Cup is done, it's all indoor soccer, baby, and I can't wait. Now, they go on the road to take on the Chihuahua Savage, the back-to-back defending MASL champs. And this is going to be an interesting one because we got a new coach in that of Anu Abassi. We got a completely different team than we have from last season. And we still have some questions in regards to the roster, but hopefully training camp and everything has ebbed and flowed very smoothly because the Strykers have never been successful in Corner Sport Arena, period. They have never beaten the Savage in Corner Sport Arena. I've had the honor and privilege of calling 3 games in that spot, and it's a tough place to play. The Savage are not only savages like in the league, but they dominate at home. So this is going to be a really interesting one. You want to talk about trial by fire? To be the best, you got to beat the best. This is going to be a tough one against the Savage, Tim.
I think it's going to be really hard. And when we did have Coach Abassi on, he didn't give us a whole bunch of, he gave us some insight as to what was going on. And as he should keep things secret, because as we're worldwide famous. And so everybody listens to us. We don't want to have people give away all of the secrets. But I'm wondering just how with so many new faces. And now given there's been a lot of players that have been played for a long time. You got a bunch of mid 30 years old that have played for 8, 10 years inside the league. You got guys that are coming back. We've got Andy Reyes coming back, and he's played 77 games for the Fury and the Strykers between 2015 and 2021. We've got the team has got several veterans. I'm just wondering how they're all meshing together during training camp.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like you said, veterans, like these guys know how to play the indoor game. So Coach Obasi doesn't have to teach the indoor game. Had he had the same exact lineup as last season, now we're talking about fundamentals and basics, because you took a lot of young outdoor players and bringing them into what, quite frankly, is a completely different sport. So now with the addition of George De Leon, you bring back Emmanuel Aguirre, so many awesome other players that featured within the MASL these past several years. Clayson DeLima, who was goalkeeper of the year back during 2021. So at least they have that going for them. But look, I've seen the Savage play point blank range in their arena. They're a talented squad, very talented squad. I mean, it starts with their keeper, Diego Reynoso, who's been successful on multiple clubs. The Monterey Flash, obviously the Chihuahua Savage. He's a beast. La Roca, Hugo Puentes, that guy's a player. Roberto Escalante, who is an amazing defender and has got a rocket of a leg. Brian Macias, Eric Tovar. I mean, if he's healthy, Jorge Rios, Pareja, as they call him. From top to bottom, this team is stacked. I do think that they are the odds-on favorite to win the MASL once again. But yeah, Strykers are going to have a tough time because Savage, well, true to their name, they're savage. They can kill people easily, and they have for 2 years.
Now, one of the things that I'm wondering about specifically with the Strykers roster is they signed the reigning MVP of the league, Gennaro Castillo, right? But he's having some issues with getting his visa. However, he is going to play on Friday night, December 6th at the Savage because of the game is in Mexico. So I wonder how that's going to work, Billy, with the rest of the team, having him not really played too much during training camp. I know that he's a veteran. I know that he's playing with a lot of other veterans, and the guy's a stud. Will he blend into the team right away?
I mean, the guy is a stud. He's the reigning MVP of the league. So it's just a matter of him. Look, he's a target. So ultimately, it's just going to be a matter of getting him the ball and letting him do his thing. He knows how to succeed against the Savage. He knows how to score against keepers in this league. He knows the likes of Diego Reynoso because he's played with him and he's played against him. So he needs to make his impact ASAP because, like you said, the P1 visa issue is going to be a factor. We get to see him, but otherwise he's been playing in this Kings League, this new soccer phenomenon in Mexico, which now the U.S. apparently has gotten involved in, and they have, Jake Paul is like the president of it. So keep your eyes out on that league, but I do think Castillo is going to make an impact. The chemistry, not going to really matter as much because just get this kid the ball, let him turn around and score.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So with that, you get Castillo, you give the ball to Fabian, you get the ball to Reyes. Now the attacking is great. So how has you mentioned it, the DeLima's coming in. We've got the between the keeper signings and the defensive signings. How do you really think the Strykers are going to do? Here we are 2 days, a day before the first game, game's Friday night. How do you think they're going to do against the Savage in this very first game?
I mean, I haven't had the opportunity to go to training camp, so I don't know. But from what I'm hearing from a lot of parties, people are excited, from the managing partner all the way down to the technical staff. People are excited about this team. They've gelled together. The chemistry's there. The questionable characters have been moved off the roster, if there have been any questionable characters. This is a team that seems to be a lot more in sync, veteran leadership and all that. So me, I don't want to use this game against the Savage as a measuring stick, so to speak, because after all, they are the defending champs. So the game against the Chihuahua, while it might set the bar high, I kind of think it's a win-win for the Strykers in this case. That like if they lose, they're not going to be. If they win, they're not expected to win, so they've already exceeded expectations. But I do think if they could keep the game relatively close, that is also going to be a win. But mark my words, take a screenshot of this, keep your receipts. This is a team that's making the playoffs. This is a team that's going to compete. There is no way that this team is going to go consecutive seasons repeatedly as to not making the postseason.
And I think I'm really fascinated. We had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, but I'm really fascinated about the one of the signings, Englishman Alex Bradley.
Yeah,
coming straight from the Milwaukee. He's a Milwaukee Wave legend. I think him coming in and really shoring up this squad, I think he's going to be super fun to watch, and I'm excited for it. I don't really have too many other words than I'm just excited to go see Alex play with this team, and his excitement level was palatable. It was great to see him the way he was.
He's a proven winner in this league, Tim. I mean, he's won with Milwaukee, so the Strykers are lucky to have him. Now, I mentioned Roberto Palmer, former MASL Defender of the Year. I know had a recent interview with our producer, Gunnar Burns, who also is the head of PR for the Strykers, and he said that Berto did say that this was a measuring stick, the game against the Savage, but I think it's going to be a test, truly. But I mean, I think you give this team a couple of more weeks together because people are still piling on. I think Marco Fabian didn't come till a little later because he was a little busy. I will not hold it against the Strykers if they lose against the Savage as the end-all, be-all. But if they can beat the Savage at Corner Sport Arena for the first time in history, then holy Toledo, my man. We not only have a team that's going to make the postseason, we might possibly have a team that's going to win the MASL Cup. But I don't want to get too excited for myself. But I am excited because indoor soccer for the Empire Strykers starts on Friday. And if you want to tune in, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on MASL TV on the YouTube channel.
And go to the game. They still got some tickets for the game. Season ticket packages are great. You can go to theempirestrikers.com, get that season ticket package. And like Philly said, if you can't get to the arena, all 12 home games and then 4 away games will be on the MASL YouTube TV.
Not to mention 12 games on CBS Sports Golazo Network, baby. You get to hear the melodious, dulcet sounds of my voice. Maybe even get to see my face and my funky outfits. Indoor soccer alive and back.
It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the arena Friday, Philly. Hey, let's hop over to Angel City. There's been a lot going on over the past couple of weeks with Angel City, including some breaking news that Madison Curry, who's been on the show, posted a little cryptic Instagram, and then just a couple of hours later, she has signed with the Seattle Reign. And it's interesting, and it's a bummer that she's leaving the Angel City club, Philly.
Yeah, I mean, she was a great player. And from what I heard from my inside sources, Seattle offered her a 3-year contract. I don't know the amount. And they said that she's going to be a regular starter. So obviously she'd be mildly foolish to not take that. But, I'm curious as to see what Angel City's personnel is going to look like. Madison Curry was, a great player. To see her go to, I don't want to say, I mean, there aren't no real conferences, but like like a West Coast rival, so to speak, and that is of Seattle. That to me, is a bummer. She had significant contributions. You mentioned that she's a friend of the pod. Just surprised that she couldn't come to terms with Angel City, but a 3-year deal and the opportunity to start regularly. Yeah, I'd take that too.
Yeah, I'm happy for her. I'm sad that she's going to a rival up in Seattle. I'm happy for her though, because she will get that opportunity to start every game next year. Keeping her healthy is what she's going to do, and she's going to stay healthy up there, and she'll get a ton of playing time. And you can't fault anybody for wanting to go play. You're a professional athlete. That's the entire purpose of being a professional athlete, is that you want to be the person on the pitch with the ball with 30 seconds left in the game. And if you don't, you shouldn't be playing professional sports.
Yeah. I mean, the Reign, they had a challenging season just like Angel City did. I mean, they finished in 13th place. So it's not as if she's going to a team that's in the upper echelon of the NWSL, at least not for this past season. So, I mean, she's trading in the warm weather and the brilliant fans and supporters that are at BMO Stadium to head on over to Lumen Field or whatever they'll eventually call that place again, because I feel like since I've been doing podcasts, I've seen I still refer to it as the Clink, CenturyLink. That's the way I see it. But it's it's an interesting change. Burr, bring your rain jacket and your raincoat and your warm boots. But yeah, I mean, I could be the first to say that I will miss Madison Curry. Good luck in Seattle, just not good luck against Angel City.
Exactly. So let's go on to more fun news. There is also breaking news that Hannah Stambow, sorry, I'm not quite good on her name yet. But
no worries. I saw the tiki drink. It's a T-Rex. You're drinking out of a T-Rex. No one's going to fault you for being perfect when you're drinking out of a T-Rex. I think they're going to applaud you for it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
A green T-Rex, might I add.
That's right. So she agreed to a 1-year deal. So she will be one of the main backups to Didi Heritage this coming season. And that is a great signing to keep the goaltending tandem back there nice and fresh and getting after it. And really, because Didi is the number one, but for Hannah to go in and challenge her on a frequent basis, that's going to be great for the team.
Yeah, I mean the roster is slowly shaping up, I guess. I mean, it's still too early. I mean, the NWSL championship wasn't that long ago. And I mean, I don't know if we ever even chatted about that. Congratulations to Orlando. They beat the Washington Spirit back on November the 23rd. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we didn't talk about that. So there we are, giving the flowers to Orlando. Great season, great win. So, I hope this season that Angel City is putting things together to make a run, because they've been winning off the field without a question. I mean, winning in the boardroom, winning with the sponsorship stuff, but I mean, geez, like they need to start winning on the pitch. Otherwise, people are always going to put focus and attention on Angel City because they are in Los Angeles, but they got to start fielding a winning team.
They do, because while they can pack BMO every weekend, there's too many other things to do, especially in LA. Just even in the same stadium, you got LAFC, and they need to put on a very competitive team. If the team isn't competitive in top six, at least make the playoffs next season. But I think they need to be a top six, top five team across the league to really keep the momentum that they have going, because when you have the Igers come in and put that type of money into the team, and then you have to do something to put higher quality players on the pitch and get the ladies to really put the ball in the back of the net and start winning these games 2-1 instead of losing them 2-1.
Yeah, and a player that's going to be back that we know of is Kennedy Fuller, who was nominated as the Young Female Player, which is a great award. Apparently, like they open it up for voting. Voting opens up on December the 4th, which actually is going on right now, and it concludes on December the 13th. So if you head on over to US Soccer, you have your opportunity to place your vote, and make sure you vote a ton, because Kennedy Fuller is exciting. She opted not to go play Division I. I think it was North Carolina. And she opted to play professionally, and she had a solid start. Kennedy Fuller was a guest on the show. You had the opportunity to talk to her. So make sure you head on over to US Soccer and vote for her. And speaking of which, really quickly, congratulations to the National Soccer Hall of Fame class of 2025. Carly Lloyd gets to be enshrined in Frisco, Texas, where the Soccer Hall of Fame is. So that's pretty cool. So congrats, Carly Lloyd.
Congrats, Carly. And let's move over. So Orange County had, while it was a heartbreaker of the final game, they had an amazing total season. And now this off season, it's starting a little quietly. But I know that our producer Gunner and I know that I have been communicating with the team. And the good thing that Orange County has is there's not a lot of things going on, because most of their guys are under contract. They don't have to worry about putting 20 people on the pitch next year. They do have several people. Ethan Zubak is under contract. He's been on the show. And I believe that what's going to happen is we may get some we might get a Christmas present here or two, or maybe at least a New Year's Day present with the contract negotiations that are happening. They do want to put a few extra people on this because there will be a couple of people. One of the things that Orange County does is they have a thing called Path to Europe, and they've had multiple people take it. And when you have that type of opportunity to go to Europe after you've gotten some really high quality coaching, that is where these players want to go. And if you can go straight from the USL Championship into a Division Two, or even the highest level over in Europe in the Danish Elite League or the Bundesliga, going to Bundesliga 2, this is where the competition really is. And Philly, we talked about this with Memphis 901 getting beat by Orange County, and then literally a week later, the transfer rights for the team went out here to California. And a big piece of that was because they didn't have a place to play. And Orange County has got a lease for another 9 years. That has to bode well for getting extra players out here in Orange County, don't you think?
I mean, look, the lure of just Orange County by itself is appealing. I mean, you live there. I called you the poet of Placentia for a reason. That alone is a driving force as to why people would want to come here. Not to say that things aren't great playing in Colorado Springs or going and playing down in, I don't know, Rhode Island FC or places like that. But I, for one, if I'm playing in the USL, I want to go to Orange County. I want to be in Southern California. I want to be on the West Coast. And you said, like, with their pathway to Europe, I mean, they had the partnership with Rangers FC. You're talking about one of the most elite clubs in the Scottish Premier League, them along with Celtic. I mean, you want to talk about a league that's boring? Watch that. And the only reason I say that is because it's all just Celtic and Rangers. Every once in a while, a team like Aberdeen might spring up and do something, but the Dundees, the Kilmarnocks, these aren't teams. The Hearts of Midlothian, it's a Celtic and a Rangers thing. Anyway, this isn't a Scottish Premier League scenario, but look, I'd have no problem playing in Orange County. I love the weather here. I'm from New York City, buddy. Like, I don't want to go back there because I like the weather out here too much.
Exactly. That's why you stay. That's why you're 15 minutes from the water.
Not me. Maybe you. I'm like 30 miles, which, as the crow flies around here, is, I don't know, 2,700 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with traffic over the past couple of weeks. Yeah. And that's one of the things, like Angel City kind of fights that, right? You have to, there's so much other stuff to do, but when you do live here and you do have this type of thing, it is definitely a draw. And people love playing at Orange County. The facility there is incredible. They play at the Championship Stadium in Irvine. If you've never been there, just walk around that place. It'll take you an hour to walk around because there are actually 40 soccer fields on that park. It's amazing.
Don't lie. Don't lie. The reason why it takes you hours to walk around is because you're always stopping at the beer fest. Come on, Tim. You got a green Tyrannosaurus Rex tiki cup. Don't tell me you're not walking by the beer tent.
Oh, I'm not walking by the beer tent. I'm walking to the beer tent.
Or in the beer tent.
Hey, so that wraps up Orange County today. And what else do we got going on?
Well, I mean, it's we should put our LA's best on this screen if we have that graphic. Hey, yes, we do.
Hey, see, the reason why I said that, Philly, is I had to stick it in your eye a little bit with you being the LAFC homer. We had to get to LA's 3Gs because with LAFC not playing this past weekend, the Galaxy making it to the MLS Cup, I had to tease you a little bit, buddy.
No, of course. And yeah, you're right. I mean, it was only the Galaxy in action. I mean, the show's going to be a lot. It's going to be interesting with only one team to talk about. We've had so much to talk about, but we have one more week of MLS, which is wild. But the players that we're going to highlight, and there's only going to be 3 of them. We're not going to go through a best 11 because, well, I mean, we're not. But, I mean, we got Riqui Puig, no question about it. I mean, he played on that ACL that was torn. I guess, I don't know, grade 1, I guess. He was still able to play. Clearly, it wasn't a complete tear because he was still running. But this guy's the engine that runs that club. No question about it. His assist to Dejan Jovalic, who got 3rd place, was clearly a thing of beauty. Kid played his heart out, man, Riqui Puig. And yes, I am an LAFC guy through and through. but I recognize the pure talent that Riqui Puig has. And Dejan Joveljic as well. Like people, they talk about the killer P's all season, but Joveljic had 20 plus goals in all competitions. I don't know why they don't mention him much. The kid's thrived ever since Chicharito went bye-bye. And then, of course, John McCarthy. Look, I love John McCarthy. I love his attitude. I love his spirit. He just had his second kid. Congratulations on that. Won an MLS Cup at LAFC. Appreciate him for that. Wasn't going to be a backup. Didn't deserve to be a backup, and he would have been had he stayed at LAFC under Hugo Lloris. No question about that. But he's found a home down in Carson. He's been successful, and he also is a big reason why the Galaxy are in the MLS Cup final. So J-Mac, finally a regular starter in this league. Those are your LA's best three.
Right. And I think that Johnny Mac is going to be the difference in this game this weekend. I think he's going to come up with a couple of big saves. And like you said, if it goes extra time, John McCarthy is going to be the one that's going to be the MVP of that game, because he's going to make a couple of great saves. The boys, Joveljic will put one in the net, and Peck is going to run down the right-hand side of the New York Red Bulls, and I think it's going to be a Galaxy victory this weekend.
Despite not having Pooch and possibly Royce?
Despite not having those two, I'm going to say it today. I think it's a 2-1 win for the Galaxy.
All right. Well, in less than a week's time, we'll be talking about that. Definitely less than a week's time, we'll be seeing that. So we'll see if it comes into fruition. From your lips to the soccer gods, we'll see what happens.
Hey, catch us on all of your podcast series, wherever you go. Catch your podcast, search Soccer in 60. Listen to us all the time. Listen to our past episodes. We got some pretty good ones. This has been, hey, Philly, thanks, man. This has been Soccer in 60.